So hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry that this video is going to be probably going up late because I've just been super busy over the past few weeks. I was really hoping to be able to film my videos in advance so that I don't have to think about it on the day what to put up, but I've just been really go and that's no excuse. I also had loads of ideas but I didn't really have peace about them, and so I didn't really want to come on here and start just talking about things I didn't have peace about. This week I've decided to talk to you guys about my testimony because I don't feel like I've done that yet. I've told little pieces here and there, some of the stories that I've told, some of the story times. But yeah, this week specifically, that's what I'm going to focus on. I just got these new glasses the other day and they're rimless and I haven't worn them out in public yet. And so I'm wearing them now and I'm just trying to adjust to them, and so I would love to know what you guys think of them. I've never had rimless glasses before. I'm looking at myself instead of looking at you guys. I don't know how I feel about it. It's weird because in one way it looks like you're not wearing glasses, but in another way you can see the outline. And so yeah, and then also in case you're wondering why my lips are this glitter, I just got this free lipstick at work and it's literally just a stick of glitter. And so I was like, you know what, I don't know when I'm gonna wear this because realistically, where do you wear this lipstick to? It's literally just glitter. But I thought, you know what, let me just wear it on here and see what you guys think, if you guys like it. It might be helpful if somebody wants a glittery lipstick. I'll show you what it looks like. It's by Barry M, so I'm assuming that you can get it in Superdrug and get it in Boots and stuff like that. I honestly couldn't tell you if it's out now or if it's coming out because I don't remember what the press release said. It's called Glit Stick 105 or something like that. So let's go down focus. But yeah, so if you want that, that's what you can get. Anyways, let's jump right into this week's video. So for those of you who don't know, I'm sure some of you might not know, I'm originally from Luton, which is a small town on the outskirts of London. It's about 40 miles away, and so growing up I used to go to the Seventh-day Adventist church with my mum was Seventh-day Adventist, and so in the town centre in Luton they have this church called Luton Seventh-day Adventist Church. There is 2 branches now, so I think if you go, I think there's another one and it's called something Road and you have to tell them, but I used to go to the main one, which was in the town centre. And basically because my dad, although he's Christian, he doesn't really go to church and stuff. I didn't go to church every single Saturday, which is the day that Seventh-day Adventist church worship on. I used to just go whenever my mum wanted to go, and so because she worked nights and stuff, it wasn't all the time, that wasn't regular. And my grandma as well, she was blind, but she also enjoyed going to the Adventist church. And so when I would go there, I would literally just zone out. I would be so bored. I would find it really difficult to follow the word. I would just really not have a passion for Christianity and things. I believed in Christian morals, no sex before marriage, the commandments and things like that, and loving your neighbour and showing love to people, but I just couldn't connect on a level that I would leave church and I wouldn't be able to tell you what the service was about. I wouldn't feel challenged. I just didn't know what was going on. And that's not to say that Seventh-day Adventist churches are all like that, or that church like that. Now I'm just saying, for me personally, I didn't grow in Christianity in that church, and I didn't feel like I was being challenged. And when I got to 17, I basically stopped going to church altogether because I was just well, I'm older now, I can make my own decisions, and my mum wasn't forcing me to go to church, so I was I'm not gonna go. And me and my sister sometimes would be out in town and stuff, and we'd get invited to different churches and stuff, and we would go have a look. I remember going to have a look at UCKG, and it just wasn't for me. So yeah, and then somebody who went to college with my sister, bear in mind she wasn't still in college at this time, but somebody who went to college with her, so it was 8 years older than me or so, was come to our church. And me and my sister were just no sweetie. And so at this time I really had an interest in music. I loved singing and I just wanted to go around singing. Coincidentally, when I was 16, the church organised a talent show in the town centre, and I didn't know that it was organised by a church. It was advertised in the newspaper, and they were like, you know, come take part, sing in this competition. First prize is £100 more gift voucher for the shopping centre. Second prize I think was like £50, and then third prize I think was like a voucher for something else. I don't think it was just like a money voucher. I think it was like Game Station or something, or HMV. I remember just being like, yeah, I really want to like do this. So I went along and I sang, you know, Alicia Keys. I was like, some people want it all, but I don't want it at all. But obviously I didn't win. And then obviously the year later, when I was 17, my sister's friend from college was like, come to our church, come to our church, come to our church. And, you know, we kept putting it off, being like, no, no, no. And then one Sunday, one weekend actually, my mum was like, oh guys, come to church. And my sister and my mum was like, we're like, now we're gonna go to the Sunday church tomorrow. And she couldn't say nothing because we were still going to church, even if it wasn't the church she wanted. And, you know, we're at that age where it's like, you need to be making your own decisions about your faith, really. You can't be saying, you know, are you Christian? Are my parents Christian? What's that? Like, you need to have your own personal relationship with God. I'm sorry that's a side note, but that's just the way it is. And so Sunday comes and my mum's like, okay, do you guys need a lift? And we're like, yeah, we need a lift to church. And so at this time, the church now has its own building and things on Chapel Street. So if you do go to Luton and you do want to check out that church, you can. But at that time, they used to have service in Dallow Road Community Centre. And so I'm going to like a big traditional church where they've got like crucifixes on the walls and statues of Jesus, to a community centre where they're, you know, having church in one of the small rooms and they've got the chairs lined out, which is really humble. I get there now with my sister, we sit at the back, and I remember it was quite full that day. I remember it was like quite a small room, but I feel like there was like maybe 35, 40 people in the room. And so at the time, the pastor was called Pastor Fari. He's now moved and he's at the Cardiff branch of the church. So if you're in Cardiff, look up Potter's House Cardiff and you can go meet him. So he was preaching that day. I can't tell you what the sermon was about. I just remember at the end of the service, he gave an altar call, and me and my sister answered the altar call, and then his wife Esther came and prayed with us at the altar. And so long story short, that was how I got saved. Like, I was basically before just fixed on my own mindset, fixed on the things I wanted to do, which was, you know, chasing a career in the entertainment industry, chasing a career doing music. God was just secondary. It was like I pray to God when I need something, like religiously, like Our Father who art in heaven, etc. But I wasn't really like praying on a personal level where I would sit there and meditate on the word or expect to hear back from God. I would just like in praying, because that's what you do, you know, that's part of Christianity, so that's what I'm going to do. Basically after that, I carried on going to the church. They had no believers class on a Wednesday night, so I used to go to college, come back home, go to new believers class. So after a month of being saved and going to church, I was offered a job working in a nightclub, and so anybody who knows anything about Luton, there's not that many jobs there, and so I had been like trying to get a job for ages. So I accept the job because obviously I'm newly saved. I'm not really like thinking, does this glorify God and things like that, you know. And so that's one thing I would say, you know, there is a scripture in the Bible, I can't remember it out of my head, but I will try to put it on the screen, and it says, he who started a work in you is faithful to complete it, or something along those lines. And so I just want to say, you know, there are people who get saved and they have radical conversion, which is great, you know. They leave the church and straight away they're throwing away their cigarettes, their alcohol, cutting off their partners and deciding that they just want to surrender all and start again. For me, I wasn't necessarily that on the extreme end of the spectrum in terms of what I was doing, but my mindset, I would say, it's been a gradual thing, a gradual change. And so don't ever feel like if you come to a church that everybody's holier than thou, because nobody ever arrives. You know, God is always working on us, and whatever you're going through, obviously try to live your life without sin, try to live your life in alignment with God, but don't feel like I've been saved now and I should have completely changed straight away. For me, it was a gradual process. I was working in a nightclub, and so I would literally work on Saturday night, come home at like 4 a.m, go to sleep, wake up and go to church, and I would have to walk from my house to the church, and it would take me like 45 minutes, an hour, and it was like uphill, but I just felt that God was calling me to go to church. God was calling me to connect with him. And so on a spiritual level, I started going to the church. I started, you know, speaking to the pastor's wife and really building a relation with her, because at that time everybody else in the church was older than me. Like the people that were in university, so they weren't like older, and then there were people with families who were definitely, you know, maybe 20 years older than me or whatever, and obviously they have wisdom and stuff, and you can talk and have friendships, but it's not the same as having friendships that are the same age as you. And so I was there at the church in Luton for like maybe a year and a half or so, and then I started university. And then when I went to university, I moved to Oxford. And so living in Oxford, there wasn't a Potter's House church there when I first moved. There is one now, which you can look for. I'm not sure where it is, because I think the building has moved. I can't remember the name of the pastor. I think his name is Pastor David, and his wife is Delphine. But they have a church in Oxford now, and so if you're in Oxford and you want to go to a Potter's House church, I'd recommend having a look for them. So I moved to Oxford and there wasn't a church there, and so I feel like in a way that kind of stunted my spiritual growth, because I didn't look for another church. I just looked and I thought I saw like another Pentecostal church. But where I was living, it was like the buses on a Sunday were like one every other hour or something like that, and then to walk, it would have taken me like 3 hours to walk, and I was dedicated, but I wasn't fully invested in that sense. So when I saw that there wasn't a Pentecostal church, I just didn't go. So for the first year, 2 years of university, I didn't go to church. I just went to Luton Potter's House when I came back to visit family or back for Christmas or whatever, and I would pray at home and listen to online sermons and read my Bible, things like that. And you know, I just think having a church is so important, to have a covering of people who can keep you accountable and keep you on course, because in that time I then decided to start working on Sundays. So even if I was church, you know, I wasn't able to go. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what day you work, because obviously some career paths need you to have that flexibility, and you know, there are important jobs that people do, whether that be working in the health industry. You can't just shut off because it's Sunday or because it's Christmas or whatever. Like, we need doctors and stuff. So I'm not bashing anybody if you work on a Sunday or whatever, but I'm just saying that I was a lot more open to compromise in those 2 years where I wasn't in a church, where I didn't have accountability or somebody to talk to, for an elder, for wisdom about these things. And I'm not saying that you can't pray and that God can't speak to you and give you peace about a job, but that was just where I was at in those 2 years. And so I then decided to start dating this boy, and I'm not going to go on to that story, but long story short, you know, this was somebody who we weren't equally yoked, the Bible says. You know, he believed in God, but he wasn't like about like spending time with God. He wasn't about reading the Bible. He wasn't about, you know, finding Christian events. He just wasn't the one. And the church in Oxford opened when I was in my last year of university, and it was pastored by Pastor Beckford and his wife Christine. And you know, I definitely think going to a smaller church, because obviously that was smaller than Luton, but it just opened, was really helpful for me. I think if I had gone to a bigger church straight away, I may not have felt the need to be accountable, felt the need to grow spiritually, felt the need to seek out books. You know, that was the first time that I began reading Christian books, because Pastor Jonathan, he used to have so many books, and he like lend me one and I would read it. And then I kept that practice again when I moved, that I would look online and read books and order books and ask other Christians, what books are you reading, and things like that. And somebody who loves writing, reading is obviously hand in hand with that. So it was really good to just basically be in Oxford and have that like next thing added to my Christianity, to be able to read books and to just do things that, you know, challenged me to grow in the Word of God. And so at that time, again, I was growing, but I would say I would still refer to myself in the sense that like I wasn't committed and devoted. I wasn't like every single church and every service I need to be there. I don't need to be at every Bible study. I'd be like, I've been to one thing this week, so that's fine. And the closer you get to God, the more you hunger for God, the more you want to be in the presence of people who have that same mindset, and I wasn't quite there yet. So at that time, I was just like, you know, I was grateful that we had Bible study. I was grateful to be able to go to service and stuff, but it wasn't my priority. Whereas I feel like now my mindset's changed a lot more. I'm a bit like, even if I'm working, I'm like looking for the next nearest church that fits in those hours. So luckily, I then moved again to the capital, and in the capital there's loads of branches of Potter's House churches. So if I can't make it to my main branch, which I go to all the time and I'm in ministry, and then I can find, you know, another one or go to the main church. I was in Oxford Church for like a year because, like I said, I was in my last year of university. Then when I moved to the capital, I was lucky that I found a church, Potter's House Church, that was literally 5 minutes walk from my house. And so it was just super convenient because I moved to the capital to do my master's, and I was also working part-time, but at the same time I was like, I want to prioritise being at church. And so I joined praise and worship ministry. I left it after a while because I was like, I don't see the point of me coming to ministry practices if I'm never going to be chosen to sing on a Sunday. But basically I was never chosen on a Sunday because I was working. So it was like, I don't know, I was just like, I didn't feel like God had called me to it in that time, and I felt like I was just doing it because of my love for music that I mentioned before. But then, you know, I broke up with my boyfriend that I had at the time, and I really dedicated myself to forming godly friendships, people who were on the same page. And again, you know, I was still reading, still listening to online sermons, still, you know, making an effort to go to revival meetings and stuff. And God began to change my heart, my mindset. And it was things like, before I'd be like, okay, I can listen to praise music and I can listen to world music, I can watch this, I can watch that. And I felt like because I'm mixing it all in one bowl, that all the good things are going to overtake, all the godly things are going to overtake, and I'm going to be fine spiritually. But I feel like since then I've kind of changed my mind on that, and I feel like it's just important to, as much as possible, the content that you're engaging in needs to be, you know, glorifying God, otherwise what's the point of it? And so I feel like that came from moving to London. Again, when I moved to London, the church wasn't as big as the church in Luton, but it was slightly bigger than in Oxford. And so there were people that were in ministry who were examples of, you know, how to dress, because before I would just be like, okay, I'm wearing jeans to church, like it's casual. Because obviously when you get saved, they're like, just come as you are. So I'm like, it's fine, no one's going to charge me if I wear jeans. But now I started to feel like, okay, I'm open to change, I'm open to wearing a dress, because anybody who knows me, my fashion is very like bike chick. Going from that to like wearing a skirt, wearing a dress, which I would literally only wear if it was like a special occasion before. Like I did like it, I just didn't, it wasn't like my go-to. So, you know, just things like that. And I know that's not necessary, that's quite like, that doesn't mean you're safe to wearing a dress or whatever, but something in me changed, and then God changed me, where I came to a place where I was just content in myself and I wasn't looking for relationships to get affirmation, relying on my job title. Even though I have a good job title, I was just like, hey God, what do you want me to do? And I really wasn't like that when I was 17. And when I got saved when I was 17, I was very much like, this is what I want to do, and I'm just going to sprinkle a prayer in there and hope that God blesses it. Whereas now I'm still changing. God has still got places that He wants to take me and bring me to, and there's still room to grow. But you know, we never really arrive. But I just think, you know, when you look back on your life and what your testimony is, my testimony is that I was brought up in a good household. You know, I had both my parents there. I wasn't brought up in a household where there was crazy things going on. I wasn't involved in gangs and things like that. But I did struggle with people being like, you're so quiet, you're not gonna make it in life, because I was a very reserved person. I still am. I still sometimes find it kind of difficult to connect to people when I first meet them, but you know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. I just think, you know, that God has given me a specific personality and a specific route that He took me, and I think, you know, if I had gone straight to a bigger church, I may not have been saved. I may have been a bit more wishy-washy. I feel like, for me personally, going to a smaller church made me feel like I have to rise up. I want to be part of what God's doing here. I want to be a part of something greater than myself. It says in the Bible that we are all called to share the gospel, and obviously you can do that in whatever size church you are, but I feel like for me, being in a smaller church, you can more see, you know, what difference your being there is doing, what God's working in you is doing. And so I just thank you for listening to this message, which I hope isn't going too rambly. But I also hope that it challenges you to look back on your life and reflect, like, are you growing spiritually, or is your testimony staying the same? Because your testimony should always be changing. So I think, you know, when I first got saved, I probably was saying, I used to not go to church and have a relationship with God, whereas my testimony now is, I had a relationship with God, but God wasn't my priority, and God is now my priority. I'm now content in Him. I'm super excited about the future. I would love people to be able to relate to my testimony. That people will. I'm sure there are people with more dramatic testimonies of being involved in crazy things and then God completely changing their life overnight. But I'm just saying, you know, if you are one of those people who you feel like I'm a good person already, or you feel like there's nothing major with me, there is still always room for God to change your life and change your mindset. And so just be open to that. And if somebody invites you out to church, you know, test every spirit and go. Just go and let God speak to you. Anyways, I will hopefully post another video in week after next. So please subscribe so that you will know when I post. I'm not one of those people that are like posting it all over my social media like I've got a video up. But when the video's up, you will get a notification if you press the little alarm icon and subscribe, and it will say to you there's a new video up. So I hope this video blesses you, and speak to you soon.